issues and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of our people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight.
It's always so lovely to hear the beautiful music, the theme song of the In the Spotlight radio show. Good evening and welcome. It's been a few Mondays since we've been live in studios, but we're happy to be here. As we count down to the 10th anniversary of the In the Spotlight radio show, we started here just about 10 years ago. It's unbelievable. But we started here about 10 years ago. It was the 13th day of May in the year 2013. That's how long ago it has been. Of course, we've not been here every Monday night. There have been holidays in between. There's been natural disasters in between. What would you classify COVID as? There's been COVID, so we missed out on quite a few programs. There's been illness along the way. I remember I had to do eye surgery on 2 occasions, which left me out for about 3 months on each occasion. But we've been here holding strong. And I really would like to say thank you to Q95 FM Radio for keeping my time slot for me, even during the times when I was not available. I think this program, in my view, is a blessing to so many. It is an opportunity to learn, to inspire, to motivate, and of course, to have our people share their stories. That's what we're about here on the In the Spotlight radio show. And we thank you for tuning in tonight. As we go along, I will share with you, whether it be via social media or whether it be via the program itself, as to how you can participate in our anniversary activities. We'll actually start our anniversary activities from the 1st of May. The 1st of May is actually a Monday, but it is a public holiday. But I do have a plan for that day as well that may involve, you know, the three people, the three persons who inspired the start of the In the Spotlight radio show, at least two of them. And we're trying to get the third person to be the anniversary guest. So let's hope that we can get this going. But it's been a good 10 years doing this program on a Monday night here on Q95. Along the way, we started when Facebook introduced their live feature. I remember we started to go live on Facebook, but before that, it was Kadisha. Kadisha, you know, you're a really special young lady, Kadisha St. Louis, who would be here with me, holding the phone, recording snippets of the guests and so on. And until, was it Kim Wastafan who came and he said, no, you can't be doing that. And he got me my first tripod for the show. So Kim, I have not forgotten you at all. I'm really grateful, you know, for your assistance and your contribution with that. So we're getting ready to go with the In the Spotlight radio show. Let us acknowledge Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited for providing us with our Twapito water for tonight on the program. We want to thank the other folks, you know, everybody else who supports us in one way or the other on the program. So thank you guys. Stick around. We're getting ready to have a nice, lovely program tonight with a Dominican artist who is based in St. Lucia. So St. Lucia is kind of technically his home right now, but I know he'll tell you Dominica will always be my home first and foremost. So we're going to get ready in just a while. So we hope that you're joining us via the airwaves of Q95 FM, or you can go to the In the Spotlight radio show Facebook page. So it's In the Spotlight radio show Facebook page, and if you go there, you should be able to see the show. And if I'm not mistaken, it should also be live in the Spotlight radio show fans page as well. So thank you everyone. We're gonna get things going in just a while here on the program, so do stick around. It is a pleasure to be here for this program tonight. We're coming back right after this.
In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, and aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of all people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, public servants, youth, the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight, we'll also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of all people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss in the spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday nights from 8 p.m. in the spotlight.
Next repent.
And we are back. Thank you everyone for joining us on the program. As I said, it's going to be a nice, casual, entertaining conversation tonight with Mr. Arnold Toulon, and he's joining us here in studios. And let's get ready to say good evening to our guest. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, we got you, I think, right there. Yes. All right, so good evening to you again.
Yeah, well, good evening, everyone out there in the island, out of the island, out of the World Wide Web, in the wider world. I'm Arnold Toulon, and I'm happy to be on Q95. And it seems like you're like 10 years anniversary again, too.
Yes, I started this 10 years ago, Mr. Toulon, and here we are, you know, and you're part of that celebration for me as we count down towards, you know, the actual anniversary itself. There's so much we want to know about you, and so much we want to hear about, you know, just everything, you know, that we are privileged to get to hear about tonight. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to just reach out to the folks and just say good evening again to, you know, family, friends, everybody tuned in.
Well, first of all, I would like to reach out to my kids out there in St. Lucia, David, Joshua, and Jade. I don't know if you're able to look at it right now, but if they are, you know, the kids are kind of different. And also my family here, Anthony, Mario, Heather, Jennifer, that's Marian, Anthony and Paul Toulon, sorry. Mario's in Miami. And Heather Toulon Elwin, who used to be my former geography teacher, now she's my sister-in-law, for having me at home, which is my home, but you know, still. Yes. And making it all a pleasant stay for me. I'd like to reach out to Timothy Sims from Simsy, out there in New York, or wherever he is. Simsy was a good guy, a lot of people know Simsy's place. And he's one of the people that supported the arts, supported us. He bought art for me, I did stuff for him. And he would have musicians play over the little gigs now and then with Julie Mate, Fred Nicholas and others. So, you know, these are some of the people that you got to remember Kello, Christian George, RG, Carl Winston, Gary Didier. Well, Carl Winston is deceased, but remembering all these names that play a great part. Greg Shield, the late Darius, David, the late Alwyn Bully, of course. Lennox Honey Church, Gilden Nassif, Cliff Jacques, Julie Martin, Fred Nicholas, as I said, W.C.K. Ramos, even Sean Rastafan, my buddy, you know. And there are a lot of other people, but
I love it. I love that you could actually, you know, pinpoint and remember specific persons who have contributed in one way or the other, not only to you, but to the art form that you are representing here tonight on the program. Good people.
Yes, and you know, it's amazing the amount of different phases we've gone through in Dominica. Because, you know, 1 minute there will be a place that's popular, like Good Times, and then another place will rise up and fall. So I've been lucky enough to see many places like that. And at all instances, you find that only like artists and performers or fine artists like myself, I dabbled in both music and art. We've always had a sort of a disadvantage because there's no proper infrastructure. And I've always felt that a much bigger budget needs to be allotted to the arts, especially in Dominica. My reason for this is that there are so many talented people here. For some reason, this is a country that just creates creative people. I mean, if you compare it with Grenada, Antigua, St. Lucia even, by population, Dominica always has a crop of young people who they could sing, they want to act, they could play instruments, you know, and now we have quite a few young painters and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you are saying here tonight that you would like to see a lot more investment into the art form in Dominica.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, you know. Arnold Bully passed away, right?
Yes.
And one of my greatest disappointments was standing on my veranda because I live on Independence Street. So I heard the siren come in, and then I looked, there's a motorbike rider, the hearse bearing the body, bringing it up to the chapel, and one bike at the back. And there's hardly anybody paying attention. And for somebody like Arnold Bully, it should have been where people came out by the road. So that means that there are like two generations who were never educated about Arnold Bully in the schools.
So you're thinking that the streets should have been lined
With people. Because
paying tribute to the life and
yes,
times of this man.
Definitely. I was actually expecting crowds of people.
You were.
So actually was.
So that disappointed you a bit.
Yeah, because you know, I grew up in the era in the 70s and stuff with Alwyn, and then went to all the 80s and stuff. So for me, my expectation based on what I know he did and accomplished, and the amount of other artists and musicians who benefited from his directives, his confidence that doing art and doing theater was something that was really serious and important to our life. And that's the attitude Alwyn had. You know, when we did plays back in the day, rehearsals were very serious. Being late for rehearsal was a big deal. And we weren't getting paid or anything, you know.
So it seems we're getting into the serious stuff, but we'll get back to getting to know him a little bit. Based on what you experienced and what you saw, outside of the point that you've already made regarding the greater investment in the art form, what else do you think needs to change to get us to that point where you would have seen people literally lining the streets for Arnold Bully?
Well, as I said, the problem is that every island has national heroes, and some of them are recognized within their lifetime, but a lot of them are recognized after their lifetime. For instance, I mean, we're tied to the Commonwealth dollar, so if you see dollar and stuff, you have the Queen on it and whatever, right? They've made changes over the years and stuff. But like, for instance, in Jamaica or Barbados, every dollar has a local national hero on the different denomination dollar. So this is somewhere we need to go more. That's one direction. In the schools, they definitely need to revamp the system. The system is not doing us justice. I spent 8 years at convent prep.
Teaching?
No. Kindergarten 1 to grade 1 to 6.
Oh, yes.
I spent, let's say, there were 5 forms of SME. I spent 7 years because I repeated twice.
You spent 7 years
at the 5-form academy.
What happened? Will we talk about that later?
I was failing mathematics. You have to pass maths. But the point I'm making is so many years of my life was spent sitting in a class without being trained in what I really could do best. So we need to start thinking that when there are kids in the schools, identify the creative ones and form extracurricular activities for them from an early age.
It's interesting that you say that. There is the gentleman who is currently the acting Chief Cultural Officer, Mr. Ilson Matthew, and I'm sure you know that I can call his name. He recently attained his master's degree, and I remember him posting something on his page that he was actually asked to leave school at 4th form, because I guess he was not probably into the academics as probably he should have been, and so his creativity was not acknowledged. It was not built upon. It was not developed, and so he was asked to leave school at 4th form. I think I'm still looking for it. Yes, I think he had the notes there that reads, and I think that's interesting that you're talking about that here tonight. It says, Olson is being asked to leave. He should try to undertake a program which is not purely academic.
Wow.
Right? So he was asked to leave school. Today, he just completed his master's degree in what he loves. And he's now the acting Master of Science. He actually has it in management. But the point is, you know, he was asked to leave school because they felt that he was not academically.
Yeah, there was no slot for him.
There was no place for him.
Nobody recognizing, whereas he may have not been interested in a lot of other subjects. Because what happens is, the subject you are usually, or you could say, naturally gifted for, you tend to have a passion for it. So you might have a kid who's having problems reading and stuff, and it could be that the angle of teaching English to that kid is wrong. But you could take that kid, which we did, and do skits, put him in a little play, 3, 4-year-old, let's do a play about children, morals, and whatever. And all of a sudden he will shine. So we are not recognizing the talent, the different talents. Like in places like Russia, for instance, they would take little kids and put them into gymnastics more because they showed a proficiency towards that direction. And they would not have to do the full subjects that the kids are doing. So you spend some time doing regular subjects, and then they send it to the gym. And then they do their acrobatics, or they're going to ballet and those kind of things. And that's the problem. Like, it's like because of the old colonial system, they're afraid to break from it because we've been centered around Cambridge and CXC and
A-levels
and O-levels, which tend to divide the kids. Because, you know, when you're in class and you have two guys next to you who get in 90s in maths and physics and you struggling, but the thing is now, you ask one of them to stand up and read in front of the class, they cannot do it.
That's it.
You know? So you have different talents.
Yes.
And until we could find a time to start really looking at kids from a different perspective, we'll have a lot of frustrated people growing up.
But Mr. Toulon, they might argue that in the schools there's drama class and that sort of thing. Are you saying that this is not enough? We need to go further?
This is even new to me because we didn't have drama class. But we did do plays. Like we had, I remember Father John Lewis was Brother John Lewis at the time. When we went SMA, we did a whole play on Godspell or something like that. So there were people who wanted to push that. But for instance, I love singing. And then the condition gets me. And then,
oh, sorry about that.
And then, you know, we had Marcus Lati, who used to teach piano and singing. Oh, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. And then it was over. So you got to 5th grade and you realize there's no more singing class because they get serious, they prepare you for exams. You know, but...
So the art suffered.
Yeah, so I'm happy to hear that there are changes and there, as you mentioned, they now have like drama class. But what is needed is a more professional approach to it. You understand? Like, for instance, they could invite people down, like at least once a year or something, to do workshops. Actors, famous people from England, wherever, in the drama field for them, and musicians. And also, every school should have some musical equipment and an art studio. Every school. We have stages, of course, they do little plays. But every school should have a piano. We deal with people like China, they have millions of pianos in Santa Fe. That kind of thing. There needs to be facility access by young people to the tools of their interest. Because not everybody is going to become a professional artist. But the thing is, for instance, over the years when I had a gallery in which I used to do art classes, you'll be amazed at the amount of people in your 40s, in your 50s, in their 60s, who came to do art classes. And all they had was memories of when they were in high school, they loved doing art. Then they worked for 30 years in offices and stuff. And all of a sudden now they came to do art classes, and you could see the look on their face because that was suppressed for so long. There was an outlet. So no matter what profession a kid could go into, the creative aspect, it stimulates your brain. That's why they say a lot of musicians, students, young students, usually do very well academically, because the training in music and the sciences of art, they stimulate your brain, and because of that, like where the receptors are more active, and that's why you have some kids who become short, because their kids music causing trouble, and they just never had a good direction to focus their energy.
A couple of things from some of the comments that you made. One, I just wanted to think about it for a moment. I want you to share with us where you're based now with St. Lucia. We'll get back to that. Compare for me in terms of the attention that is given to the arts as compared to Dominica.
Okay, well, St. Lucia has two Nobel laureates, Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walker. So they also have a college from a long time, So you find there is already a generation before the younger generation now who excel in literature and economics and those things. So they have role models. Of course, Derek Walker died, and he still bemoaned that he wanted a national theatre built, and up to now it's not done. So they've had plays, different places, but it's two things we've always wanted. It's a museum gallery and a proper theatre. So that just shows you the struggle. Post-colonialism we are fighting in the Caribbean. Trinidad is a lot ahead in that. Jamaica is a lot ahead in that. You find Jamaica, Trinidad, and probably also Barbados are a lot more nationalistic about that issue of the creativity and the arts. They support the artists a lot more. Same thing in Dominica. I've seen so many young artists doing such good work. Why is they in demand? You have offices, you have insurance companies, you have lawyers, you have doctors, you have businesses. But if they are not thinking of any importance of having art in their business, then, you know what I mean? To them it sounds expensive or whatever. At the end of the day, we need out the people here or merchants or whoever to invest in local artists. Because that is where your country gets stronger, and not only that. When you invest in the art and you have more art in banks, visibly in public places, people who visit value the local artists more. So it actually multiplies the value of your art because your country believes in you.
So one of the other points that you made, so I'm just following up on a few comments that you made previously. You said our national heroes are sometimes honored or recognized while here with us, or sometimes they're done so posthumously. And you were talking at the time about your friend and your mentor, your teacher, Alvin Bully. Is it a situation where you think that something should be named after Alvin, or he should have gotten some type of recognition where his name is written somewhere? Is that what you're alluding to?
There's a lot more that could have been done prior to his burial.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense to lament it, but it might make sense to mention.
Yes.
For instance, I'm taking a walk around town and there's a big sign, this digital sign by the river.
Yes.
Okay.
The screen, the big screen, digital screen.
That
yes.
could have been showing a lot of excerpts about Alvin for a whole 2 weeks before he died.
You would have liked to see that.
Like
Yes.
more public info about him. Because everybody knew, not because of his condition in the last, let's say, year or whatever of his life, he was not the most fluent and, he's battling the disease. So that means that they should have already been looking at that. So you ask me, commemoration. You definitely need to have a statue built for Alvin somewhere. So,
do you have any thoughts where as yet?
the center of Roseau, but it will be the Bayfront, most probably.
Somewhere in the Bayfront.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the market,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
Two, definitely need a street named after him. And there are two places because Orwin used to live, the family house was on King John V Street at one point. But when I was growing up on Hillsborough Street, he was living Upper Hillsborough Street. That was also the place of the coup and 1979 and stuff. Subsequently, he did a mural design on the Treasury building. So one of my thoughts was that should be named, even if it's the top part of the street, Orwin Street or Orwin Avenue. I think that is very important, pertinent, and not too much to ask for. And then you have
somebody mentioned the Arawak House of Culture.
Right, exactly. And you know you have even like if you have rebuild a library, they should have a wing dedicated to him and to other literary artists in the island. So now that was my main thing. Like for instance, in Cass Street you have the Eric Walton Square, you know. So these people come along once in a while because you have a lot of other people who've done a lot, like Gordon Henderson and so on.
Hello, Mr. Henderson, if you're tuning in. If you're tuned in, you normally tunes in.
Yeah. You know, so there are a lot of other people who have done major inroads through the arts in Dominica. Okay? So to come back to Orwin, that is my thing. He needs to be seriously commemorated. You know, you can't just let it pass. Because the more they look back, is the more they will find. I've been with Orwin driving different country places. I can't remember San Sofia, something long ago, 40 years ago. And you know, he'd go to meet these cultural groups here, these cultural groups there. He knew all of them across the island. And sometimes when you go, it's a dingy little house they have, little shop they have.
But they're making it happen.
To do their little play and stuff. But they make it happen.
Yes.
You know? So he would be dealing with them with so much respect. Because I don't think Olin realized where he was living. He was oblivious to a small surrounding. He had a vision and a big vision. And that's how we walked, that's how we talked, and that's how we...
Mr. Toulon, for somebody who is listening to this program for the very first time and not knowing nothing about Alwyn Bully, tell them who Alwyn Bully was.
Well, first of all, my first encounter was when I heard about him, you know, but I was about 9 or 10 years old or so, and I had a drawing book. I was full of drawings, and then my parents told me to take it for Alwyn to look at. And they found I was doing good because I never really did childish drawings. From early, I mean, I had a certain level of proficiency, but of course it took hard work to develop it, which I would do late at night, do my homework. When I'm finished, I draw. And I brought it to him, and he was the first person I really kind of sought an opinion, and he was very impressed, very encouraging. But I remember his comment was to my mom that he hopes I do not burn out at 35 or something. Oh. You know, sometimes people start to show to flam. But it gave me a push to keep doing what I was doing. And then later on, there was People's Action Theatre. I ended up becoming a member. Then there was Old Mill, 1974, 1975. We started there. There was gifting by Daniel Green to the government for heritage purposes, cultural purposes. And we went in there. We were the first little crew cleaning up and organizing there. And then we started doing plays and stuff. And then all we did at the plays, like they would have at the Sanders Hall. They had plays at the Arawak, I think. And then we traveled with plays, St. Thomas, St. George, St. Croix, Tortola, which was what they call Folk Nativity, a Christmas play. And I think they did other trips with other plays, which I did not partake in. But he was constantly writing, and he was known to write something in one night, and also designing. So, like, he didn't just stop at the drawing board. It went on into the whole realm of theatrics and art and stuff. I remember I was in Jamaica, and Olin at that time was working there with UNESCO, and based there. He took me to see a play with John Amos, if you know the actor who acted as a father in Coming to America, right? And it was a fantastic play. John Amos did a solo performance, almost 2 hours. He brought me to meet him after. And that was all. Like, when we would be looking to go on a little lime and a bangarang and a little siwo, Alwyn's night was looking to do something more in the theatre, world of theatres.
And very importantly, to the person who's listening for the first time, he designed the Dominica flag.
Well, of course, we can't do that.
We must definitely share that.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate the love and admiration of which you speak about the late Dr. Alwyn Bully, and he's somebody that we will never forget in Dominica. I do hope, and in the Caribbean and to the world by extension. And I do hope that some of the things that you mentioned and that others have mentioned as well will be done in terms of commemorating Dr. Alwyn Bully. Yes?
Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Let's go back to you. And Alwyn Bully actually is the reason why you are actually home right now, because you came for his funeral. You're currently based in St. Lucia. But let us talk first about Dominica. Give me a bit about your history, your background, where you come from in Dominica.
Well, I grew up, I'm a good old Rosa boy. I grew up initially on Queen Mary Street, which is now called Independence Street. In an old wooden house.
An old wooden house.
An old turn of the century, 1800 and something wooden house. And it was beginning to fall apart around us. It was becoming a hazard. So eventually we moved to Queen Mary Street, to Hillsborough Street, where we spent quite a few years before we actually built. I think when Hurricane came, my mother said, that's it, build the house. So then the comments working on the house on Independence Street, about 80 to 82 it was completed. But growing up in Roseau, I went to the convent preparatory school. Then when I'm on graduation, I went to the St. Mary's Academy, which was, as I said, I love my school, I love my teachers, I love my subject, but I was very frustrated.
You were frustrated at secondary school, St. Mary's Academy.
Yeah. 5 hours was just too long.
What caused your frustration?
Because I've always been a kind of an overactive person. And I was bored, there are a lot of the subjects I basically...
What didn't you like? What didn't you like outside of math? I already come to the conclusion that you didn't like math.
Math gave me a problem, and because of that, I did not spend time on it.
Okay.
I learned math.
I don't like math either.
When I left school, I learned math on my own. But they would give you so much homework, and I could understand basic mathematics. But
and you must understand basic to move on.
When they went into, Pythagoras theorem and kind of nonsense, these things just were not clicking. But I excelled at English, and I enjoyed English. I excelled at biology, geography. I did well in Spanish and French, social studies. Yeah. Basically, I did well in most subjects. The subjects I did not do well in is just because that term I just didn't bother put effort into it. I would do my artwork. I realized in high school that if I don't train myself, no one is going to do it. So, as I told you, I'll do homework quickly, and then I'll spend the night drawing.
Yes.
And painting my weekends. I would just take paper, pencil, crayon, anything, and I would read up about that. Like at St. Mary's Academy, nearly every recess, I used to go in the library and just look for the art book section. And it was a small section. But anything I got, I would read up about art and educate myself. But a day was about 5 hours.
You find 5 hours was too much to be in the classroom because you wanted to be creative. I think that's what it was. You wanted to draw. You wanted to. That's what you wanted to do.
I have ideas in my head.
And you're wasting your time doing math.
So I used to be drawing all around, imagine of my exercise books.
Oh Jesus!
Some teachers didn't like that.
Of course not.
Because they'll be talking there, and I'm listening to the teacher, but my mind is just going. Then I used to dream of traveling. I wanted to travel. Because,
Oh.
you know, all the places where you hear about art in Italy and Paris and whatever. And I just dreamt of going to these big museums and galleries and stuff. And it came true years later.
It did.
It came true.
We'll
because-
get to that. We'll get to that. So what happened at St. Mary's Academy?
Well, apart from playing as much basketball as I could to burn off my energy in the afternoon, then I started roller skating. And it would be out of this school, put on my roller skates and roller skate till midnight, like just line and go from Newtown to Louvière, wherever. Goodwill. I used to skate with Brian Kuzlati, the late Brian Kuzlati
Yes.
too. But the thing about it is, you're sitting down and you're sitting down for a whole 45 minutes. Next one on a hard wooden stool. Remember any board I don't even have meat to sit down. and you know, monotony.
Yeah, now creative people, that don't work for you guys. It don't work for you guys. So is it that you said goodbye, or St. Mary's Academy said goodbye to you like they did to
No,
us?
what happened is after repeating the first time.
Oh yes, you did say 7 years.
I was going to leave school, but then I realized that I've let down my parents, all the effort they made for me.
The investment.
And I also realized that I need to at least get some O levels.
Okay.
I realized the importance of that. So I stayed, and in the second year, but I ended up graduating first honors in English, second honors biology. So I was the valedictorian.
You were the valedictorian? Well, Mr. Toulon, after 7 years, you might as
supposed
well.
It's like that's nothing to boast about. By that time I mastered it.
But you made it through. You made it through.
I had to get out.
You made it through.
And it was a good thing because when Alwyn was the one who recommended me, there were 2 scholarships offered, and they were looking at different people, and I was lucky to be one of those who was chosen by Alwyn Bully, recommended, and I was at Jamaica for it. But before that, Old Mill was becoming my first art school, because there was also Louis Desiree, the guy who did sculpture, Haitian, who in the Nazi brought to Dominica, and I did a course with him whilst doing theatre. I did a sculpture course, which is a Haitian style of carving, which I did with him and stuff. So I basically would you know, they say surround yourself with good people. So I found the musician, the artists, the theatre people were the best people to be around. And I immersed myself in that. Drumming with Ra, Peters, and Leslie's brothers, Algie, and then we had drumming groups. Made my own drum, made my own shack.
That's what you needed to do, not sitting down on a bench, right? That's what you needed to do.
I used to go in my dad's workshop, you know, and just take wood and take a chisel and carve stuff on the weekends or in the evenings, you know. And I always realized, if I was doing that 4 or 5 hours a day, I would be a master today.
Master.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Let us go back before we go. You go off to university. So tell me, Mr. Toulon, when did the artistic side show its face?
From primary school.
From primary school.
Because 2 things I asked my mom. Ask her when did I start drawing, ask her when did I start reading. So my mom told me you could always read Arnold.
You could always read it.
Yes, I'm a kid. I from kindergarten and so reading just came. But we had a lot of, you could say, influence on our parents. Because my mom was a teacher. And my dad was a reader. My dad just loved a book. So he'd always fill up the house with books whenever you buy books. So reading was something we did a lot because, you know, you come home from school sometimes and let's say, for instance, my brothers and sisters went out and I come in, mommy not there yet, daddy not there yet, and you're there in the house, I'll read. So you just go and you take a book off the shelf and you read. And so that was...
So the books were available?
Yeah, we have bookshelves. My dad used to take a couple planks and just make bookshelves. So it's almost like we have a mini library at home, you know. But from the beginning, I found in school, contemporary, that drawing just came natural to me. Not only that, I really enjoyed it, doing it. It helped with frustrations, it helped with irritability. As I said, I was very hyper as a kid. So when I would draw, it was a time when I could forget everything and just lose myself and create my own world. So I was attracted to more surrealistic type drawings, not so much photographic or realistic, but I could draw fairly realistically. But I would do imaginative stuff. And it was the same thing when they would be designing carnival costumes. I would go with my brother Paul or people like Dan Nikai, were costume designers. And I was a little boy around that all the time. Sometimes they give you the cut out feathers, sometimes they give you the cut out shapes, and they're building costumes. So from about 14, 15, I had this dream that I want to create a Caribbean style. Because a lot of artists were influenced by European art or Renaissance art, you know, which we all read. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, David, Jacques-Louis David, and then later on people like even Picasso, which wasn't really my favorite, because Picasso basically saw his earth develop after studying African art. That's the way it went, not the other way around. Though he was a skilled prodigy type. But it's when he started studying African masks that they got from England, from Nigeria and stuff. That's when he really started creating what he became famous for. So, however, I just felt that our sense of color, our sense of perspective, our sense of visual reality in Dominica was different. Because Dominica is basically your back to a mountain, your chest to a valley.
Green.
You quickly come to terms with nature. You know.
Right.
The contrast, for instance, would be Barbados. You fly over Barbados and it's a whole rolling flatland. St. Lucia is mountains but a lot more rolling hills. So you find there are a lot more houses all over the island. Whereas Dominica, the places you just see mountain and no house. There's nowhere to put a house there. Mountain, mountain, mountain. So you have the rivers, which to me will represent the blood, the life force of the land. And water is our diamond, by the way. And these rivers, when you have like flooding, like we live on Lisbon Street, when the Rosa River will come down, sometimes it will come onto River Street and then River Bank and then into River Street. And we've got to look at it and you would be almost awed by the sense of power. And you could hear those big boulders in the river grinding and going down. And next day, when you see what the water could bring down, it's almost fearsome to watch. These things became the inspiration in my mind.
Caribbean style.
I knew art form could not be soft. It could not be placid. It had to be. So if you look at a lot of my work, you notice I use a lot of powerful imagery, and my colors are very intense. Also, we would have periods in Dominica, especially, I don't know if it's changed, but when I was young, it would rain and rain and rain and rain. Then the rain would change gear. Rain would come, I'm telling you, and the rain, we felt force and fun. And then we have galvanized roof.
Yes,
So
oh.
watch us, look at tin pan near above us.
Yes.
You say steep bank.
I loved it. I love the rain on a tin roof. I think somebody wrote something on that.
Yeah.
Called rain on the tin
When
roof.
the rain fall on the roof, boy, it's like metal on your head, you know. And I remember to I'll give you a little joke. When we were in school, if it rained, you try to get home dry. But you see, Friday, we were running in the rain. We
You
stayed
bathing in the rain.
We used to take popsicle sticks and put them in the gutter all the way up King George Street and follow it. We used to race them. I kid you not. We saw boats, so there's a stick or something.
Right.
And then there was a seed pond from the botanical gardens. It's like a little boat. I don't know what tree.
I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. It's long.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little boat.
Yes.
So it's put that in the gutter when it's raining. So when it's, we reach home, we went from our head to our socks. But it's Friday.
Only Friday.
So we get away with that.
Yes, you get away with that. I just want to read something to you when, as we get back to the style you wanted to create in terms of the work that you did. So a gentleman is writing, I think he's Mr. Dangleben from Granby, probably Radio Abamago.
Okay.
He says, I've been hearing about Mr. Arnold Toulon, and it took the In the Spotlight radio show to enable me to see him in person via Facebook. Mr. Toulon, don't stop the positive vibes. Thanks to all who are doing their best to spread positive vibes all over the globe on behalf of Dominica and the Caribbean by extension. So that's just a little note there from
Thank you,
someone
Mr. Dangleben. Much appreciated.
who is viewing the program. There's other comments as well, but I just happened to pick up this one, and others are also commenting
You could collaborate.
on some of the points that you made earlier. So someone is saying, very, very big fan of the program. He said we should have at least a mural somewhere in Dominica with all or most of our indigenous heroes and heroines. We continue to honor our past colonial leaders by having streets named after them, but absolutely nothing about our indigenous leaders or heroes. Mary Eugenia Charles, Frank Barron, Patrick John, Alwyn Anthony Bully, Irving Theodore Shillingford, Jeff Joseph, Gordon Henderson, E. Oli Blanc, Emmanuel Loblack, Jean Reese, Phyllis Shad Alfrey, to name a few. So this person feels very strongly that we need to probably give a little bit more credits, commemorate more some of these people.
But definitely, the thing is, you are only as strong as your integrity or your reputation. That is, at the end of the day, that you could say that is what a good person can say at the ending of their life, you know, what you have accomplished. And our biggest problem, or it may not be a problem, but our reality is a small population, okay? And that can work with or without you, or with or against you. However, a small island can have a great reputation. We are a powerhouse. When I was in school, and I remember the first time, they showed a map with Dominica, and it was a dot on the map.
Yes.
I had to go back and look at that and look at that. Primary school, eh? And then I said, you see me, I'm going to make that little dot get big one day.
And you're working towards that. Yeah. Even if you're based somewhere else, yeah. You know, I know that you know, Dominica is still at your core. Let us go back to, and we really have to talk about the decision to move to St. Lucia, why St. Lucia, etc. But let's continue the discussion around the Caribbean style that you were trying to create. Not necessarily a Dominican style, but a style of painting that incorporated our Caribbean sun, our Caribbean skies, the sea, the flora, the fauna. Why was it important to you? I know you mentioned some of the others, you know, more European and so on, but why was it so important to you as an artist to ensure that the Caribbean is not only represented in your work, but also were you trying to influence it onto other artists of the Caribbean? Is it something that you wanted some kind of integration, some kind of working together?
I'm not so worried about creating a movement, if that's what you mean. But in traveling in my younger days, I noticed there was a big trend, which is a problem for a lot of the islands that have tourism, for the artists to start really doing tourist art. You know, it's like saying, back in St. Lucia, people come and they're looking for a painting of the Petals. I have painted the Petals, but it's not something I really like doing, in the sense that I will not be doing it all the time commercially, whereas there are a lot of artists who are doing, like, you know, they have 50 Petal little paintings, because they know tourists go to buy one for 20 US or 40 US. So what happens is with the onset, and Barbados too, I noticed it on the beach, there are a lot of artists who got a really clean tourist style. Whereas because later on other artists like Shield and stuff, they started looking towards their roots. And our roots are Afro-Caribbean. So no matter whether you can trace directly or not, basically the only reason we are in Dominica, St. Lucia, and the Caribbean is because of slavery. There's no other reason, because we would never have been here unless Africa invaded the Caribbean. People were brought here involuntarily. So basically, our history, whether or not we were under the French, the British, the Spanish, or the Dutch, our history is Afro-Caribbean and also Afro-Native. So you have native, whether it is the Taino, the Kalinago, etc., Siboney, etc. This is where our history is really going out of. And then we had, like for instance in Dominica, we had the British system and the British schooling and the British etiquette and the British morals and values that we were sort of brought up under, okay? So at the ending of that period, coming from the 50s to the 60s, from Libra moving on, we had to start looking into ourselves so that we don't lose our true nature. Because you can't teach a West Indian to dance.
No.
Do you understand what I mean? Our true nature, like I'll give you a good example. You notice there's a big trend of West African music that's been played everywhere. And though a lot of us cannot even understand the language, it is just normal for us. Like the music is just our second level music. And I grew up with that thing too, with Calypso, and so they had what do you call it before? Before Calypso, there was another name for it too. But I grew up in that era in the 60s, where growing up in Rosewood, I heard all the local music. When people preparing for carnival, next door you could hear drums, there you could hear this playing, the Crystal Band playing over there. And the Juve band groups doing their rehearsal. I'm still making a little run around Rosewood doing a week or two, and police used to chase people and take their drum, get to them next day. But you know, this to me was not happening in convent prep. In convent prep it was more clinical and it was more, they were more teaching us, so like Belgian teachers and whatever, who could not even really relate to us as Caribbean people. But people like my mom, they started doing carnival costumes for their students in the school. My mom was one of the first. And in my mom's time, you have people like Mary David Spear and so on, Mr. Eugene, a whole heap of people. But they came together and they would do plays like Stars of the 50s. And that is actually even before Alwyn. Alwyn may have ended up working with them. So we always, something I noticed with my mother, she was a staunch Catholic. She was an exemplary lady, teacher, and whatever. But she loved her Creole business. Mm-hmm. Don't put your foot in front of that. She loved her Creole business. And my mother knew all the local foods, the local drinks. And that's what she grew up, taught us growing up. And that's what nearly all of us grew up. We no matter what, we have a very strong African style of cooking. Nobody taught us that. So it's true that they used to import food, you know, when we were on the boats to bring in tin stuff and whatever. They'll take it out there and make a local style of it. You understand?
Yes.
So the food, or style of Creole food, like it comes up now, we call bouillon. All these things are our real nature, mm-hmm. Our true nature, what's natural to us, so that we don't lose our culture, our sense of person, our sense of purpose, mm-hmm. Our sense of being. Mm-hmm. And this is what that can eventually make islands like this make more money. Because you have, we are at the point, the tipping point, where we may soon have, or will soon have, an international airport. And by the way, I don't understand how anybody could say we do not need an airport. We need it. Because I used to travel the islands, and it's like when you walk down the street, and there are 5 stores, some have business, some have no business. I used to fly. And Liat used to have a program for $800. You could go anywhere on the route. You could stop pick up the plane next day and continue going. $800, I know.
Island hopping then.
Island hopping. I jump on that. I have friends in the islands and I'll do hand-painted t-shirts, and I used to sell hand-painted t-shirts along the way. But flying over the islands, I'm saying, look at it. You leave Dominica, when you come to Guatemala, you just see boats, business, things happening. You go to the other island, you see traffic. When you come to Dominica, it's there. And the only reason for that is because we don't have a proper marina and an international airport. Like St. Lucia is lucky because they have the natural bay Castries, which could become a good fort. Fairly good conditions for view fort also. Then you have Rodney Bay area. But Castries is just probably you could say naturally designed bay. And that's what creates business, because boats can find safe harbor. And so you find any of the countries with good access have more business. So that's all Dominica needs.
So you think we need the international airport?
Of course you need the international.
So you endorse that?
I endorse it.
Right.
I don't care who builds it.
You don't care who builds it?
I will take a shot like no, it's about time. This country has to reach maturity.
Let us talk about St. Lucia, because we've been talking about St. Lucia quite a bit, and somebody told me just again announce who my guest is, for the radio listeners in particular. So my guest tonight is Mr. Arnold Toulon, and Mr. Toulon is by profession an artist, and there's quite a bit he has dabbled in as well that we've not touched on as yet, but we definitely will be touching on some of that as well as we go through the program. I told him it was going to be 2 hours. It's already after 9, Mr. Toulon, you see, and we still haven't touched on quite a few areas as yet, right? So, Mr. Toulon, why did the decision to move to St. Lucia and not stay Dominica?
Okay, well, I graduated Jamaica School of Art in 1986.
Right, so we stopped up there. You had moved on to college. So probably we can take off from there, and then we will.
So between 87, 88, 89, I was doing a lot of hand-painted t-shirts at the time. I was painting elsewhere, but I went into the fabric and fashion thing. I did fabric design and hand-painting, and I would travel with them. So about, let me see.
Wait, pause. Fabric design,
yeah.
And what would be done with that fabric?
I used to, basically, people would give me dresses to paint for them.
Oh.
We did fashion shows too here. And then I would just do t-shirts. But instead of printing them, I would hand paint each one. So they were a little more expensive, but then I would travel with them. I sold a lot here too, and stuff. So 88 and 1987. In 87, Lady Flossack, may she rest in peace, from St. Lucia, who was the Governor General's wife, worked in education. She was opening a gallery in St. Lucia called Exhibit Gallery. So she came to Dominica and she came to my home and invited me to the opening. I did not make.
Where did she hear of you?
I guess probably asking people about artists on the island.
Okay.
So I don't know. But then she came, and then I missed the opening. I went up in 1988 and I started showing at Exhibit Gallery in St. Lucia. I was not living there, but I would go and spend 2 weeks and come and bring in work and so on over successive years. But in 1993, December, I met my ex-wife, my children's mom. Actually, she was here playing with a ladies basketball team. By Venus opposite me. That Venus is another story.
Now what 50 Manguchi?
So then I went up to St. Lucia in 94. I was not intending to stay here. But because I had worked in a gallery there, and I was actually selling quite often at the time, I was going back and forth. Then I decided to stay because 96, so from 93 I was invited to Guadeloupe to the 2-week show. 93 also, 94. So I'm there in St. Lucia 95 or 6, and these guys came to invite me to Paris, to a show in Paris. I was just called Le Genie Creole, and I was the only English-speaking Caribbean artist, and there were 7 others that were all from different French departments in the Caribbean and stuff. And that's from there, it was like every year I was traveling 2-3 times. I went to Jamaica, Trinidad. I started doing shows in St. Lucia. And then I was invited to Cuba. And the show we did in Cuba was a big show because it opened in Cuba and then they moved it to Sweden around 3-4 months later. So I went both to Cuba and to Sweden.
So hence the traveling you would dream about.
Yeah, and
On SLA's hard bench.
And all my ticket paid, everything.
Yes.
Accommodation.
No cost to you.
Yeah. So I was in Paris sitting at a little cafe by the road, having a coffee and laughing because I used to see that in books.
Now you're living that
I
life.
used to dream one.
Yes.
I used to, now I told you I was in school,
Yes.
but I was always dreaming outside. I wanted to. And there it started to happen. And there I'm sitting there, and I'm just laughing, and this guy is watching me one day while I'm laughing at. And I'm just saying, damn.
I've arrived. The dreams have come true.
So that's why I tell a lot of the young artists, if you have a dream, whatever it, don't give up. Because sometimes when you think, okay, it's never going to happen, that might just be when it's about to happen. You know? And I can tell you, as I said, when I graduated from high school, I graduated honors, I was this, but I was depressed. All of a sudden I knew, what am I going to do? And so luckily, that scholarship came to send me to Jamaica and to allow me to get better developed and everything.
Oh, so you went off to Jamaica to study?
Yeah.
For how long?
1982 to 1986.
4 years again?
Yeah.
So that's another 4 years?
No.
Oh, that is the 4 years.
That
That
is
is
the
the 4 years. That's the 4 years. So you went off to Jamaica and you went to study. What did you study in Jamaica?
Well, when you go to art school, you do the basics in the first year, and second year you do rotation. In rotation, you are given an option which department you want to specialize in. Now, I was telling somebody that the art school is a system that they should introduce. Because the art school, basically you have school of music, school of drama, school of dance, and school of art. And in art school, you have sculpture department, and then you have the what do you call it, ceramic department, where they do throwing bowls and clay and stuff. Then you have textiles, where they do cloth printing, weaving. And then you have graphics, where they do like some graphics film. And in those days it was graphics by hand.
Okay.
Now everything is probably digital.
Yes.
Because I used to do hand-painted signs with my brother as a young boy. So in those days, when people want a sign, it's not a printer, it's a hand paint.
Somebody is actually saying they had a few of your t-shirts that you hand painted, and the person is saying that they should have saved them instead of wearing them. I know that would have been a nice.
What's the person's name?
The person's name is Collis.
Collis?
Yes.
That's nice. Well, actually, there's some people I know who have t-shirts they bought from me since the 80s or 90s, I don't know, and they still have them fresh.
Yes, of course.
In days and months.
Yes, of course, of course. That's appreciation for the work. So in Jamaica, so you did art.
In the course. So what I was saying is that I did textiles. So when you get to rotate, you spend like 6 weeks, you know. I did textiles, graphics, jewelry, and then I specialize in painting.
Textiles,
Yeah.
graphics,
Yeah.
jewelry,
Right.
and you specialize in
Painting. Which is what I wanted to do in the first place.
Yes, okay. So you were allowed to do more than one.
Yeah, like you in second year you rotate.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
because some people go in and they want to do painting or sculpture, but when you go into school, they get attracted to another discipline. Like you see, the textile was nice, but boy, that is for old ladies. That's a bad joke, but the textile is something you sit down and it takes a lot of time. Because you were weaving by hand, the open weft, standing a shop through, and I have to do. I did a nice piece. I just knew I wanted to do it, to experience it. And in photography, we did even like black box photography where we just use light and expose. So they taught us the basics of photography and screen printing and different things, because you use a press, which was interesting.
So that would have been a very long time ago.
Yeah, 82 to 86.
So how would you describe the Jamaica experience, and what do you think you left Jamaica with when you graduated?
Well, I left Jamaica with a lot of confidence. It's not just the school, it's the Jamaican mentality. I love Jamaica. I mean, it became like my home. And the thing about it is, I only went on summers for the 4 years. I never came Christmas. So I spent all the Christmas in Jamaica. I got to experience. And Jamaica is very, Jamaica has special bun and cheese they make for Easter time. They have special thing they cook for this time. You know, like Jamaica is very traditional, especially when it comes to their food. So, you know, it was just awesome.
It's interesting you mentioned the bun and cheese.
Yeah,
yes, and we were actually, because of the company I work with, Cable and Wireless Flow, what you find is that there's a lot of interaction with the other countries and their cultures.
Right.
And some time ago we won a call, I think it was just before Easter, and one of them were talking about bun and cheese, and I'm like, bun and cheese? You know, what's the big deal about bun and cheese? You can just take cheese and put it in bread. But for them,
Boy,
it's a big thing.
Trust me, the bun is made differently, and the kind of cheese they use is, and when you have a bun, why I Easter bun? You can't say no have that for Easter.
What?
like Jamaica, like Christmas time, they do fish escovitch. You know what they do?
Yes, yes.
And I always said, I never eat better fish anywhere in the world than Jamaica.
Yes.
They can prepare fish.
Charmaine Green Brown's husband, Mr. Paul Brown, was the first person who told me about escovitch fish and how it's done. Days over days, you know, it's almost like cured or whatever it is that, you know, it's done with it. And I think he actually made me taste escovitch fish, you know, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, so I guess they have their things that, you know, really grow on you.
Very, very traditional. That's the first time you see us eating jerk chicken and jerk pork. Well, guys not joking in their tradition.
Not at all.
Now this big natties they were putting down some jerk pork. I say, hey, what are you doing in the man? Why are you vegetarian? I have to change.
So you wrapped up Jamaica and then what?
When I came back,
did you go back to Dominica?
Yeah.
Okay.
I came back to Dominica for a while, but the thing about it is there was no big art happening. Like for instance, Burlington and I used to hold exhibitions together. During whilst we were studying, every year we'd come down, we'd do an exhibition. The Experience Volume 1, 2, and 3 and stuff, you know.
Another big one, not to interrupt you, Earl 18, who's also left us.
Right.
Yes.
Another good artist. And so basically we were just creating our thing. But it was really getting into St. Lucia that kind of opened me, for some reason, to a wider audience. And then in '98 I had a gallery there for 2 years, a small gallery, but people like the owners of Anne Chasney Hotel, that's Nika and Caroline Trubetsky. Right now they have Jade Mountain, which is a big hotel in Soufriere. One time they came, they bought out my whole gallery.
Are you
This
kidding?
is have around 40 of my paintings. Yeah?
Wow.
So they are like, for instance, they have a villa, that's 1A, which is just my work alone, done especially for that villa. So in that time, I was getting a lot of things. I worked in banks in St. Lucia, insurance offices and different places. So there was a lot more support for what I was doing in the arts, and I've been honored to do feature artists for the cultural division and done a lot of programs, different things with them. Usually, like every year, they would have some of the schools, they would invite me to talk to the vocational students and that kind of thing. So, you know, it just became I was getting a lot more response and more support over there. But now things have changed. Right now we're going back to scratch. Since COVID, we try to, everything has just stopped. So we're hoping to get a revival in the arts.
Okay, and that is over in St. Lucia?
Yeah.
Okay. How long you've been in St. Lucia?
Roughly 30 years.
30 years? I don't think many people know that you've been in St. Lucia for this long. I mean, I picked that up when you were, you know, based on your Facebook postings and so on. At one point, I thought you were probably just visiting St. Lucia. And then I figured out, you know, no, you actually reside in St. Lucia. And that is why when I saw that you were actually in Dominica, I saw a post on Facebook, I reached out to you and said, you know, Mr. Toulon, are you in Dominica? And, you know, you are always somebody that I would have liked to have had on the program. But again, most of my shows are, well, all of my shows are in studio. The person has to be there with me for us to have our face-to-face. I've done a few, you know, pre-recorded ones, but for this particular program. So once I realized that you were in Dominica, I said I need to have a chat with you and to bring you on the program. And it just so happened that this is when I was resuming, you know, after the break. So I'm happy that you actually consented to being here with us and just to, you know, just share with us generally in terms of the work that you do. So in terms of your who inspires you? Who influenced you in terms of the style that you?
Well, that's a bit of a difficult one.
Is it?
Let me
You influenced yourself?
I'll try my best.
Yes.
Whenever I'm asked what inspires me, I always make up a new story, you know.
You make up a new story.
I never know exactly what to say. Let me pick up Sandra Peters, Ronnie Peters, Merle Peters, Rosie Bob, good friends of mine, neighbors, family who are there in Dominica. Love and blessings to you, people that helped to shape me as a kid. Okay, in terms of inspiration and thing, my father was probably my biggest role model, though I didn't see much of his work, but my father was just an incredible artist.
So your father was an artist?
Yeah. And like we have a painting that he did in 1950 something, and he won an award in Curacao, you know, a Caribbean show they had in 50 something, and with Alcoa's company, one of these oil companies, I think, and they did this show. But his sense of drawing, he worked with government in income tax, but he designed furniture and built furniture because he's a professional joiner. So if you go to a home, you see nearly all this tiny table, everything he made himself. But I saw give him in the workshop. But one thing, when he's on a pencil and you're designing something, that gave me a start. And then my elder brother Paul, who's an incredible draftsman also. So this was really my start. But I kind of watched everybody. Carl Winston, my cousin, I used to watch him paint as a kid. I saw drawings and paintings by Leon Church, by Arnold, Gary Didier, and so on, you know, Gideon Nassif. In the 70s or somewhere, yeah. Guys like Christian George, Algie, Calloway, Shield, they had an exhibition at the St. George Hall, which was very inspiring to me because it was the first time I went to an art exhibition in Dominica. And then years later, Pauline Bully Paul and I had an exhibition at Pepe's called Visions of Reality. But I was looking outside. I would look outside for role model because I didn't want to be competing with nobody locally, in the sense that I was looking to see who were the greatest artists. So we saw magazines like Art in America, and with all magazines we used to get about art. As I said, I would use anything I could lay my hands on it. And I would look at artists from out there, but I never had one particular artist. Of course, the masters like Leonardo da Vinci, who was both an artist and a scientist, would have been probably what I looked at the most. Because he not only did painting, drawing, sculpture, but he did a lot of studies of plants, of water, just little sketch, which were more scientific, trying to understand nature or to capture plants and flowers. So I realized that I need to to be very rounded. So I shifted my attention to a lot of different subjects over the years. You will see that you were asking me about developing my own style. Mm-hmm. So about the time in 93, 94, I started painting and scratching into the paint. That's where it started. But I was in acrylic paint and I would scratch with an ice pick. But it was cut in the canvas too. Uh-huh. So then around 95, I started using oil paint. And that's why I created my scratch technique. So if you go online, you could actually learn about my scratch technique, where I use oil paint, but what I did, I gave up the paintbrush, and I would go around town where they saw phone booths before, on the cards, and I would collect the cards. People would throw them when they finish. They'd have $5 card, $10 card. And I would go to card streets and make a collection of these cards, and I would paint with them, and then I would use an ice pick and scratch into it. So that is my really distinctive Caribbean style that I created, my scratch technique.
Scratch technique. And you do not use a paintbrush?
No.
So even today, what do you use for the scratch technique?
The same thing if I do that. But I use brushes and I'm doing other paintings. But
Right.
that technique
Right.
is pristine. It's only done with phone card and ice.
And it's not something you do often, is it?
No. But I did it for 10 or 15 years. I did a lot of that. But like with anything else I do, I move on.
You move on.
But if somebody wants one, I do it for them.
So if somebody calls you after tonight and say, I would like you to do one of those scratch technique paintings for me, you would do it.
Yeah.
You would do it. So it's something that you developed on your own.
Yeah. And if you Google it or whatever, it is they're based on sort of geometric designs and anamorphic designs. So some of them are very organic where the color is flowing. Technically, basically, it's like printing. When you apply the paint in the phone card, you're scraping two colors together and they blend out. But they do not blend, a paintbrush cannot blend it like that. So it has a totally different effect. And once the paint is wet, then I scratch, join into it. So from a distance, you will see a bright painting with a lot of oranges and red and vibrant colors. When you come up, there's a narrative opens because it's delicate little scratch drawings. So it's a reverse process. Like when you draw with a pencil, you add lead to the paper. When you scratch, you subtract. It's a subtractive drawing technique.
Interesting.
And then I did what I call special paintings, special drawing, where I would draw by point. So if I paint the background, then I would draw a figure, but I would just be pouring the paint and making little swirls until it makes a figure. So this became my splatter technique.
Splatter technique. So you have the scratch technique, the splatter technique. And these the two that you figured out on your own.
Yes. These are very, very unique.
Very unique.
Because you know when kids in school they used to take wax crayons and be scratching. So it's basically coming from that. But nobody has done it as a serious art form.
Okay.
I've only seen one other artist doing that online. So I did it as a full thing, a full painting is only done with that whole technique.
As we speak, Arnold, what are your main techniques that you use in painting?
Well, we just mentioned one.
So do you still use that one?
Yes. Regularly? Not regularly.
Okay. So what do you do regularly?
Okay. What I've been doing most of the time is as I said, I use a geometric concept with the scratch. And that geometric concept, I also use it with what was inspired by stained glass. Like going to church as a kid, and you have the stained glass windows, and they would like put together with lead, and you have all these bright colors coming in. Sometimes the priest talking, I hear nothing, like just watching the color coming from the window. And so there's this technique that I also use, but with brush painting, where the figures are fairly geometric. However, I also do ethereal landscapes. So ethereal landscapes meaning that I do not use photos to do landscapes. I do rivers, I do like lakes, I do stuff based on nature back home in Dominica. Because my connection with rivers
But you're not there.
Stronger. Well, if you're not there, and you're there in another country, you want a river in your house? So I always have a river painting. In fact, they usually sell, but when they're done, one day I'm going to do another river painting. It's just something I love doing. Now I do them with big bubbles and stuff. Because
do you use photographs from Dominica? How do you?
Hardly a reference. Like, I mean, if I had to paint like Emerald Pool, the first time what I did years ago, I went to Emerald Pool and I spent the afternoon there with some friends. And I went home and I painted it, but I didn't take a photo.
You didn't take a photo?
And I knew where everything is supposed to be, the tree on the side, the stones there, everything.
But you couldn't learn math.
Huh?
But you couldn't learn math. Imagine that. So the picture is in your memory, it's in your mind, and you can look at it for a period of time and then go home and paint it?
Look, one time Beverly Blatcher, my old school friend, wanted a moonset painting. So girl of us went on Shipwreck Beach and we stayed until the moon set, you know. Yeah, the moon setting on the sea. I didn't take notes, nothing. When I went to my digit, I did a painting with the moon set.
That's
And,
natural, special natural talent.
and another time I was at warehouse, and as they're dancing, the same thing, looking out over, I could see the sea and the clouds. So the moon was higher, it wasn't setting. But when I went home, it was about 4:45. The city warehouse was daybreak in the morning, and I just did a seascape painting. I think Ophelia Olivache, I think, may have been the one who bought one of them with a boat, and Jennifer, Dr. Jennifer Elvin bought another one with the seascape. But they were basically, I'm out and I'll just be inspired. So I call them ethereal because they made up from my imagination, but based on tactile information.
How else do you find inspiration to paint?
Well, they have a robot movie. They say need info. I don't know if you know that movie with a robot walking around. So what happens is there's certain times when I get brain dead or something, I would spend time away from art. Like just stay away from it and read a lot, probably watch movies. But what I would love doing is going to the beach. I'm going to spend the afternoon at the beach. Forget everything, just relax. And what it is not so much direct inspiration, but it's rejuvenation. So you recharge your battery. So you need energy to be creative. Huh? Because when that creativity comes, you can't sleep. You know? Many a time I would lie down on my bed and say, I must to edit, I just get up and go and work. And work 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, daybreak and then go back and sleep. So when the idea comes, but you need to feed your mind. So when people ask me what inspires me, I'm always stumped. Every time I have a different story.
And we'll take whichever story you give us. Now we've heard about writer's block.
Yeah.
I know you kind of just mentioned something about it a while ago, but do you get artistic block?
Yeah, you do.
You do.
But that's what I think. The way our mind works is if I work on a big piece and I work, when I'm finished, it's like you put everything into that. So you need new input.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. When I come to that point, I find things to rejuvenate. Basically rejuvenate. Because when I'm well rested and my energy is high, I'm creative.
You're creative.
It just one goes with the other, you know?
Do you go through a period of time that you just don't feel like creating at all?
Never.
Never.
If I'm not, in other words, I will not be painting, but I will write. Or I will not be doing this, but I'll be doing that. So I hardly ever pass a day without doing something creative. Hardly ever a day. So if I'm not doing one, I will do the other. But as I said, sometimes we need a break. Our body needs a little rest, a little relax. And it's good to know when to take that. That's why I was telling you, sometimes those kids in school are so frustrated and they need a day off, a break. But probably if there's a department they could go to, you know, send them to the music room. And, you know, or something like kids. And they need to have more movies in schools. That's one thing I always found that they should have. They could play, you know, educational movies or documentaries or movies about famous people or artists and that kind of thing. That should be part of the school curriculum. Because these, okay, I'll give you a good example. The happiest day you had at school when they say you have an outing.
Yes.
Why?
Because you're going out. You're
No stress.
away from the classroom.
Exactly.
No teaching.
Exactly.
Right.
So that means that there may be 6 days when these kids are stressed and they're put under a lot of pressure. And I think that is not the best way to educate people.
When is your favorite time or your best time to be creative?
You're back on that again.
Is it at night? Is it during the day?
Well, I'm a daybreak person, so
Early morning?
I tend to wake up
The
after
sun
5.
rising?
Yeah, I tend to wake up after 5. Like if I have to start, I'm going to start a painting that I have in mind, an idea. I'm starting like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. It's cool. There's a lot of energy. Even like from around 3:34. It's sometimes that I would wake up and write a poem at that time and then go back to bed. But from my work, I start daybreak. I start very early.
You start
Yeah.
very early.
So by 9, 10 o'clock, I could be taking a break. I could take breakfast. I could go out, you know. Then in the afternoon, I'll get back on it. And then I could work from then, afternoon into night and stuff. But my most creative period is early in the morning.
Early in the morning. This one is from a viewer, and that person would like to know, on average, how long does it take you to create a typical piece?
Okay, this is another difficult question.
It's from them and not me this time.
Look, different paintings according to the subject matter demand different approaches. You know, it's like if you have a vehicle, you could just put oil in it to run, put gas into run, or you could have to dismantle your air filter to clean it and all that kind of thing. So there's sometimes when I'm doing a piece that it is basically done in one day.
Okay.
And interestingly, the scratch technique I was telling you about, some of them are 7 feet by 4 feet. Most of them are like 6 feet, 5 feet tall, right? They have to be done within less than 48 hours. Because I'm applying paint, I'm slow drying, but it still has within, after 1 day, there's some colors that get sticky and I do scratch to clean.
Okay.
So the scratch technique, it is an immediate technique that needs to be dealt with from beginning to end. I could work 2 days straight, or from morning into daybreak the next day, and then I burn out. But that's how it's done. But there are pieces I do with the paintbrush. Some of them take me weeks.
Okay.
Some of them take me months. Some of them take me years.
Wow.
There's some paintings I haven't finished yet, and when I get the thing, I go on it. And there, a lot of them take me a few days. Okay, so doing a quick work is basically slapdash in the sense. If I have a watercolor size, A4 size paper, I can do it in a day. But I always say my biggest problem is I always start simple and I get complicated.
So I want to find out from you as well, in terms of painting, Mr. Toulon, do you have a studio that you use, and you must paint within that space, or do you have other areas that you can move to based on what it is you're doing or what the inspiration is?
Well, wherever I live is a home studio. So I usually have a section of my living room or somewhere allotted for my work. And of course the kids have their space. But I choose somewhere that has good light, close to windows and stuff. And the way I look at it is, anywhere I am is a studio.
Anywhere you are.
Sometimes in my bedroom I do stuff too, and sketches.
Okay.
But I do have an area where I have my easel, tables and paints and stuff.
Right. So from Jamaica, tell me, as an artist, do you have to continue going to school, honing your skills? How does it work for an artist? Or once you know you're an artist, that's it. You just continue developing your own.
It's a matter of choice, but I don't. One of the biggest problems is there are some talented people that too much schooling can really mess them up. Because even with me, I enjoyed having different tutors, having facilities, equipment to work with, you know, at the art school. But there are some, when I left art school for 4 or 5 years, as I told you, I was doing t-shirts. I learned so much stuff, I was confused. So you find like I went in with natural talent, doing what I was doing before. But it's because I learned so many different things. It took me a while to formulate, to get back to myself. So I could use what I learned, but I could bring it back to being unique to me. That's why it took me so long to develop my technique.
Is there a dream project that you would like to do, Mr. Toulon, or you have thoughts of getting the opportunity to do one day?
Well, the dream project will remain a dream.
If you talk about it, it will not happen.
If you talk about, you think so? But is there one?
Yeah.
Is there one in your mind? Okay, let's talk about, you don't have to tell us your dream project, but what are the chances of that dream project happening?
Well, as I said, I've been doing a lot of shows, whatever.
Yes.
And COVID basically just changed a lot.
It screwed up the whole thing.
Exactly. Now you have to bear in mind also that for support to do a project or whatever, you need to be making money.
Yes.
Everything I've done, I've funded it myself. I've never had funding, right? The people I used to be selling artwork to 20, 30 years ago don't really exist.
Oh.
Because remember, then the people used to be buying in their 50s and 60s. These were our clients. And we had a lot more at the Toulon solution at the time. But then, now these people, what, 70, 80 are dead. So we have like a dearth. Right now, I'm trying to awaken. So the Tourist Board has a show for the jazz, which is starting in ending of the month. They've invited me to it, so probably when I go back, I will take part.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And this would probably be the beginning of
a rebirth, almost.
Yeah. So we had a gallery that was in a gallery that I worked with, and they were doing a lot of I did a lot of shows with them. I saw awesome one-man shows. I did many one-man shows over my career period. But as I said, right now it's like we have to start all over again.
Yes.
You know.
So the artists are feeling the strain of what COVID-19 brought.
Yeah, and also as I said, the decade we are in now, where we do not have this virus we had before. So a lot of people, their children are inheriting their paintings.
Okay.
You know? So
how can we change that, Mr. Toulon? How can we change that?
Well, awareness, you know, you need awareness and you need recognition. That is why I always said, like if you have 4 or 5 hardworking prominent artists, every 2 years or every 3 years or every something, the government should buy some artwork and put them in public places. From the, you know, even if it's one from this person, once a year or twice, because they're building. If you look all around, people are building. It's not like they're not building. So this is what needs to happen. You need to have more, not just murals, because what you find with the murals is 2-3 years in the rain and they're washing out, you know. And how do you maintain them and all that? So they're good for the visual of the city, but you need these artists to start being collected. And there must be a budget for that. I mean, put it this way, we need our piece of our pie, of the passport pie.
Why do you think it is important to buy art or to have art? What impact, what influence do you think it can have on society?
Think of Jamaica, right? What do you associate Jamaica with?
Reggae.
Reggae and imagery, right?
Yes.
And clothes and red, yellow, and green
Yes.
and stuff. And everywhere you go, you see, you know?
Yes.
So, what will happen is if in Dominica you have more of that, we're going to be seeing more than just a simple country. Because then, like I was by my cousin, big up Sarah Road, last night or yesterday, and I see some beautiful work she has.
Yeah,
you know,
she
and I've
does
seen her
some
work
good work.
online
I've seen
also.
some of her stuff online.
My school friend Carol Sorrento, we were practiced together. Now she's back here. She was in England, I think. You know, Shadrach, young Shadrach Burton, Margot Larrock. There are a lot of people who are producing artwork. And as I said, if more and more places, public places you go, you'd see their work being shown. It is like you begin to see the color of the country, the impression of the country. What we have here more is the music of the country. So
Yes.
we're more known for the sound of music.
But how do we get people to appreciate art? So, I mean, there's a lot of people who say, oh, that's just people doing, you know, how do you get me to appreciate art?
Well, you have programs like this, where you can interview them more. They have this group here, the art group they have here.
And it is White Equally Artists Association or something?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Wow, something. So, basically, you know, at least once a month, you could probably have a little talk with them and put them on. The thing is awareness. The only way to change stuff is through awareness. That's what I see.
It is 9:45, the time in the studios here at Q95. We really want to thank those of you who are tuned into the program, those of you who are tuned in online as well. We are really, really happy to have you. So we might be wrapping up the arts conversation per se, because we need to find out about Mr. Toulon and his music. He's been involved in music as well, and I understand some poetry. He dabbled in that a bit, so there's still quite a bit to learn about him here this evening. But Mr. Toulon, as we phase out of that that particular discussion in terms of artistry, what is it that you want us to know? What it is that you would like to live here with us tonight as it pertains to art? Do you make can someone really make a living out of being an artist? What can we do to help? What can the government do to help? What can anyone do to help? Improve the circumstances around art, especially now post-COVID.
Well, in terms of making a living, it depends on how organized the person is. Mm-hmm. Now, bit by bit, there's a lot of visibility online. But I wouldn't like to say it is not as easy as that, because you could get lost in online with millions of other artists. That is why I'm saying you need to have an image. You need to have a particular look.
A brand.
A brand, right. And for instance, you would quickly hear Haitian art, right? You never really hear Jamaican art or Haitian art. But when you hear Haitian art, you almost know what they mean and you know what it looks like. So that they've created that kind of brand for themselves. And you've never really heard of Dominican art. They have Dominican artists. So Dominican artists now all take their different directions. How do you support? The same thing I mentioned earlier, you need people to support the artists. Simple as that. You need people that you're building houses, you're building businesses. Look for an artist to involve and spend some money on them. Because we spend money on a lot of nonsense. We import stuff. We'll have a house, we'll import the furniture, import, and not let a local person build it. We're going into the hotels now. How much are they going to tell the hotels that they should buy at least 50% of their art from the local? Because even in St. Lucia, when you travel in the Caribbean, they go to hotels that only see prints from Europe. They buy these cheap art prints from anywhere else. But they spend everything else on everything else. So the couch might be worth over $1,000, right? But they will go cheap on art. So you still have that mentality that needs to change. So how can we change that? How do we change people's mentality? I don't know. That's the difficult part. What we could do is to be more vocal. We have to be more vocal and we have to be more challenging. Artists have to demand. We need a part of a budget. Whether it is things like they have a budget that will allow them to import art materials duty-free so that artists could buy locally. You understand what I mean? And definitely incorporate art into the infrastructure as we develop. All we've been doing is giving donations most of the time. You understand? I had a painting in Kingfield Airport for years, and it was just a donation, with a tourist board. But it was there until the invisibility. But it's like, would they make a decision to just buy it off you? So what I mean.
Are you doing any showings in Dominica while you're here?
Basically, I brought along some work, not much that I want to sell, so I've been contacting a few people. If anybody wants to have a look at it, they can find me on Messenger. I'm on WhatsApp, 1758-718-6403.
Wait, that was too quick, Mr. Toulon. Let me write it in the comments one time for them. So it's 758 718
6403
6403, and that's Arnold.
So they can get me on WhatsApp, yeah?
Yes. So this is his number right there that I just posted for you.
Now, hoping to get some support. That will be good.
Have you gotten any support as yet since you've been here?
Initially, one person was supportive to me, yeah.
One so far. Only one, Mr. Toulon.
Well, thank you.
You're still thankful.
Thank you, Celia.
Hi, Celia. I wonder if she's tuned in tonight. If she's not, she'll definitely go back and view. Yeah. Yes, I was asking about the show. So you where can they come?
Well, if they contact me on WhatsApp, I could arrange. Because for my home in Roseau.
They can come and see
Yeah.
what you actually have here in Dominica, and they can go on Facebook and see some of your work as well.
Yeah.
You put some of your work on there. All right, so Arnold Toulon in Dominica. He's not been home since
2014.
2014. So you see why once I heard him, even if I know he had to do, I found out after he was doing another program. I didn't have a problem with that. We all have our different audiences, but I know he had not been in Dominica for some time from what I had heard, and so you know we had to bring Mr. Toulon on the program here tonight because we don't know when we'll probably get to have him again. Now, Mr. Toulon, it's 9 minutes to the hour.
Yeah, so you're talking about music and
Let's
and
talk a
poetry.
little bit about music. Your involvement in music.
Well, my mom used to sing, and my dad also, to attend on the soprano. They used to do both the choir and also the other group, as of the 50s, as I mentioned in the little shows. So that was like growing up in a house with an artistic environment from day one. So that was my luck, you know, fortunate. And then later on, as I was growing up, I started writing just for fun. And then I would gig with when the guys would have, you know, Freddie, Julie Mate, Cliff Hurricane, Jaja, Jay Grimner, and different musicians like that who would have little gigs out and ask them to sing, and I used to sing and hang around with them. Then I joined the Flintstone Band, which was some guys from High Street, Dave Winston, Dave Ra, Gregory, Zara, Wadix, different people. And Irving Bell. I was the lead singer in their band for 2 years. And then years later, when I went to St. Lucia, I was the lead singer of Reggae Team, is another band, reggae band in St. Lucia for 2 years also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But in between, there was a Commonwealth Song competition, whether 93, 90, or in the early 90s, I think. And I wrote and composed a song that Lumina, George, and I sang. And we won the local leg, but I don't know if that music reached England in time for the, I think it reached late, because it was a good song. So last year, I had this other song I wrote about 28 years ago. And I could not get anybody to sing the song because of the range. Because when I write, I don't only write for myself. There are a few other my songs, and I never recorded any. In others, I have a recording of a song called The Gypsy, but it's not a complete recording. I did in St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I sent the lyrics and the thing for Hermina last year, and then they did the production in Canada. This Land of Mine is the title. Yeah, I love this land of mine. So, but 28 years I had that song sitting now on it.
What? 28 years.
And I asked different people to sing, but they couldn't sing it properly. Well, they couldn't sing to my taste. And I miss Hermina, because Hermina used to sing, you know. And I just probably love her voice, because she has such a clean, delightful way of singing. So finally I got her last year, and we did it. So you can see it on YouTube, This Land of Mine.
This Land of Mine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure if we have time to check out this one.
No problem.
Yes. Nikki Road is asking what about the song you wrote for WCK?
Oh yeah, well,
Which song did you write for
you
WCK?
keep reminding me of so many things. Good night and love to you and family. In 1988, or when they had their first album, I think, Irving Bully came home and he came on our piano, and he was bonky, 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 bonky. On the right that song, he gave me the sketch, and then we wrote Drug Free.
Oh.
Just called Drug Free.
I know that song.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you see, like we
Very young voices.
Yeah. I didn't sing it, I just wrote the lyrics.
You wrote the lyrics.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I designed the album cover of that album also.
Okay.
But you know, I grew up with Irving and I was classmates. So my relationship with WCK go way, way, way back. You know. But unofficial member.
Unofficial member of WCK. What are the other roles you played in terms of music?
Basically, I used to do percussion sometimes if the guys. I was never wind instrument or string instrument. I might do percussion.
Okay. All right. You're also into poetry as well, so tell us a bit about that.
Well, I've been writing poetry since primary school. Actually, I think most of what I wrote then was lost in Hurricane in 79. I was in Go, but we got a lot of leaking and some of my school books. But over the years, you know, I would just write every now and then. When I joined Facebook in 1992, I started just publishing my poetry because I find like poetry is a very difficult media to sell. But I would be performing, I perform in spoken word and different shows in St. Lucia where they have poet performances, and I'm always well received. So with the Facebook I started publishing because I found like better than just publishing a book. When you post your poetry, you get direct response, which is what I like, engage. And also over the years, I developed a particular style of writing that is a combination of storytelling and poetry. However, I don't like classical poetry. I never liked Shakespeare poetry, historic books there, but not poetry. Milton and this, I find it very complicated. I write a poetry that you could understand. I write a poetry that kids could understand and relate to.
Do you have anything off your head you can share with us before we wrap up?
Yeah, I have one right here. It's
Yeah,
not
one.
off my head.
Not off your head. You don't remember them that well, right?
It's not
Over time.
It's not too long.
Over time.
I can do this one.
Yes. Thank you.
It's called I Miss This.
Okay, 1 second. I want to just kind of record this by itself as well. So let's go.
I miss this. I miss river baths and river days when we lit a fire on its banks and roasted something and the water was clear to the bottom. The colored pebbles, brown, streaked orange, speckled gray, pinto if you were lucky. The silvered water glistening then, the damp and cold and so much labu, mud that sucked off your shoe on the slopes of Mount Diablotin, with clouds spread out below in the realm of the gods. Fireflies by the hundreds on a rocky road late at night, lighting my way in the blackened street. The sizzling sound of frying water on a hot pitch road from a surprise shower. Old men with canes sitting on the steps of a shop every evening just to chat. I miss the little tray with a bullseye and fried balao lined up in heaps on Kennedy Avenue. The mechanics who worked on the sidewalk lying under the car, the uncaring and defenseless legs sticking out almost into the road. And Lapo Cabwit pounding out a session somewhere behind our house on Hillsborough Street, preparing for carnival. Those black green sugar baby watermelons whose core was as red as blood and sweeter than sugar cane, round as a basketball. Scalding my fingers by holding a cup of hot cocoa in a porcelain cup the wrong way, but not telling Granny I get burned. I miss the loudness of the crickets and other players at night, sleeping with their cacophony. Not being able to sleep my first night in a hotel room because it was too quiet. And the peace at night when all windows are shuttered with the faint sounds of 3 or 4 radios in the neighborhood somewhere, all tuned to different stations, Spanish there, French there. Then comes the rain like a barrage, unyielding with intent, drowning out all else, its rock showered sound, 1,000 cymbals, and so to sleep. I miss this. Thank you.
Very nice. And is it that you miss some of that as you're in St. Lucia? You miss some of those Dominican things, or you just miss those things from your younger days?
The younger days.
The younger days.
Because, you know, things change, a lot is changing nowadays. We don't have, like nowadays, we didn't really have the distractions of social media. Our social media was radio.
Yes.
You know? And that time, it was actually a time when you could be more creative because you had to improvise, always improvising and stuff.
Mr. Arnold Toulon, an absolute pleasure to have you on the program here tonight. I would like to give you the opportunity to just share some final comments with us and anything specific you would like to leave with the In the Spotlight radio show audience tonight.
Well, I must say that it has just been a great pleasure coming back. I need to do this more often. But you know, when you move away, in the first years you go back and forth. But then you have kids growing up and then you have schooling and things change. You cannot just be jumping on a boat and going. People say you're just next door, you know, but it's not really like that. And not only that, the situation changes a lot where you are. I would like to just say to all people listening, especially everybody living in Dominica, we've got a beautiful place, a great country. We have the most valuable resource in the world, which is water. We'll be surprised probably years from now, people will be fighting for water. Eh? Now they're fighting for oil. But water is always going to be a very important resource that we have here. We've got beautiful people, a beautiful country. We need to just don't let our differences get the best of us. We don't want to end up in that kind of situation. You know, we have politics or whatever, but at the end of the day, we have one goal, one mission, which is to develop this country, to be proud of our country, to hold our flag high, and to make sure that our children keep walking in the ways of God, or in the ways of whatever faith or religion you believe in, but that we give them guidance. We need to keep doing that. A lot of us now are parents ourselves, so you can all identify with this. Keep up the creative spirit. We have a very natural way of doing things. Even the way people build houses, the way people plant flowers and so on their houses. And these things may look superficial, but they are very important. So let's take pride in ourselves and in our country.
All right, thank you so much. And as you said, you know, I hope we'll see you returning a little more often back to Dominica. I would really like to encourage persons. The number was placed in the chat of the show, so please, if you would like to see what Mr. Toulon has to offer in terms of some of his art pieces that he came to Dominica with, please give him some support. At least, you know, give him the courtesy of a call, so at least you can go and see and then purchase something, right? Let's support him. Let's support all of our local artists as well. Next week, Monday, we should have a magistrate with us in the spotlight. So that's something to look forward to next week, God willing. And then we'll begin our official anniversary celebrations from the 1st of May. We celebrate on the 13th. The anniversary is the 13th, but we will celebrate on the 15th, which is the Monday the 15th. And again, as I said, you know, I'll reach out in separate ways as to how you can participate, contribute, and just be a part of 10 years on the air of the In the Spotlight radio show program that I dedicate to my dad, and I thank, you know, those persons who gave the initial inspiration for this program, and Mr. Gregoire, you know, just saying, no problem for Dinah, let's make this happen, and then we did make it happen, and here we are today. So next week, Monday, God willing, we should be back here with you for the In the Spotlight radio show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Those of you who listened, those of you who viewed via Facebook, it was definitely a pleasure. And we thank you again, and have a good night, everyone. Yes. Okay.